Beyonce couldn't get pregnant, not naturally. What I do know is this. Beyonce got on that stage with that fake baby bump. It was lined up with the same timing of where Cathy White would have been in her second trimester. The timeline of when she delivered Blue Ivy lines up almost perfect with the timeline of when Cathy White would have delivered. We all know that Blue Ivy came from a surrogate. They shut that hospital down like a president had just been. And parents who had just had children themselves weren't even allowed to see their own kids for 24 hours because of the security that was locking that whole thing down.
$1.3 million is alleged that Beyonce and Jay-Z, the Carters, paid this hospital to have the right.
It turns out the whispers weren't just rumors. Blue Ivy was allegedly the child Jay's late mistress, Cathy White, was carrying at the time of her mysterious death. People in the streets had been speculating on this for years, but everything exploded after Jaguar Wright openly accused Beyonce of being tied to Cathy's passing. The wild claim is that not only did Bey allegedly pressure Jay to handle Cathy, but she supposedly made sure the baby Cathy was carrying didn't survive either. The story gets darker. Insiders allege Beyonce staged her pregnancy while Cathy was the one carrying Blue Ivy. Then, once Cathy was gone and the baby was in her hands, Beyonce suddenly announced to the world she had finally given birth. And just when you thought it couldn't get crazier, Katt Williams of all people jumped in and started confirming the very same things Jaguar Wright was screaming about. That sent the internet into meltdown because nobody expected Katt to back up those explosive claims. This scandal was nearly buried until last year when Beyonce dropped her album Cowboy Carter. On it was a track titled Daughter.
If it's what you truly want, I can wear her skin over mine, her hair over mine, her hands as gloves, her teeth as confetti, her scalp a cap, her sternum my bedazzled cane. We can pose for a photograph, all three of us, immortalized. You and your perfect girl.
And people immediately started picking it apart like it was a confession track. Fans claimed the lyrics are Bey's way of admitting to silencing her lover's mistress, with Jay allegedly helping her keep the secret. The song's title alone had conspiracy theorists convinced it was a coded reference to Blue Ivy, the very child many believe Cathy was carrying during her tragic final days. The lyrics themselves are chilling. Beyonce sings, "Your body laid out on these filthy floors, your bloodstains on my custom couture, bathroom attendant let me right in." She was a big fan.
She actually died screaming, and the Carters are responsible. But one of them is just a little more responsible than the other. Question is, did Sean Carter delete his mistress, his pregnant mistress, because his wife was jealous? Or could it be possible that maybe his wife's temper is just a little worse than most people think? And maybe he just had to clean it up to protect the brand, see? I mean, I'm just speculating.
I really tried to stay cool, but your arrogance disturbed my solitude. The song got even darker with lines like, "Now I ripped your dress and you're all black and blue. Look what you made me do." They keep saying that I ain't nothing like my father, but I'm the furthest thing from choir, boys, and altars. If you cross me, I'm just like my father. I'm colder than Titanic water. Some fans brushed it off as just lyrics, but others said it was way too detailed to be pure fiction.
Think about Claudia Jordan right now. Claudia Jordan don't ever mention my mother name. She mentioned it yesterday. Talking about why people are afraid to come forward. You mean like you? You was Diddy girl. Corey was Jay-Z girl. Why don't you claim your friend? Claudia.
So, Jack, when you say...
When I say Corey, I'm talking about Cathy White.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
Jay-Z's pregnant mistress, who died of an imaginary fucking aneurysm. Just like the woman who was best friends with Kim and Kimura, who wrote the book Bling and died as soon as it made the bestsellers list. Who the fuck was these people supposed to go to? You can't go to the boss because the boss is fucking you. And the boss's boss don't get no... Can't go to the authorities. They're all bought and paid for. You could try to get a special prosecutor, but they'll just pay somebody to reassign him to another case. Where the fuck you go when you get f***ed over by the industry? Nowhere. That's where you go nowhere. Which is where people like me step in. You right, I go to Diddy parties. To walk mother out! Cause ain't nobody stopping me when I come. You, Sean.
Hey, man.
Weirdo. Oof. I don't get no what you got in your head, that Neuralink. You'll never outthink me. Ever. All I do is frustrate your AI. You can't quantify me. You can't even control your wife. You gonna handle a bitch like me. You can't even control that goofy bitch. You should have did a better job. Maybe she wouldn't have had to lose her mind on Cathy. Cause you ain't protecting you. You're protecting her. Wonder why?
Almost like a confession wrapped in music. See, when Cathy died, it was officially ruled as a brain aneurysm, but people quickly noticed the story didn't add up. Suspicion really took off when folks started piecing together the timeline. Let's rewind to August 28, 2011, when Beyonce revealed her pregnancy live at the MTV VMAs, a moment that had the world buzzing. But here's where things get suspicious. Beyonce was supposedly due to give birth in January 2012, the same exact time Cathy was reportedly pregnant. And then, just days before Beyonce's due date, Cathy was suddenly found dead in her home. Then, right at the beginning of the new year, Beyonce announced the birth of Blue Ivy on January 12, 2012. That overlap still has people convinced that Bey was never really pregnant. Instead, the whispers claim Blue was born through surrogacy, with Cathy allegedly being the one carrying the child. Now here's the twist that keeps this theory alive. In gestational surrogacy, the surrogate doesn't share DNA with the baby. The embryo comes straight from the intended parents. So if Bey and Jay provided the eggs and sperm, Blue Ivy would carry their genes, but Cathy would just be the one carrying the pregnancy. This is exactly why believers argue that Blue looks just like both Bey and Jay, even though Bey herself never actually carried her. And for anyone still doubting, there's that infamous video that fans never let go of. Beyonce sitting down in an interview, and her baby bump appears to fold inward like it was collapsing. Tell me this. How many pregnant women do you know whose bellies fold in like that when they sit down? That's why so many believe Beyonce's bump was fake, and the whispers get even darker. Word on the street is that Beyonce allegedly made sure Cathy was gone after giving birth, because she feared Cathy would slide right back into Jay's arms and keep the affair alive. Taking Cathy out supposedly solved two problems: no mistress running back to Jay, and no risk of Cathy later exposing what really went down behind the scenes. And then there's the wild story about Bey and Jay allegedly paying more than $1.3 million to shut down an entire hospital floor the night Blue was supposedly born. People asked, who spends that kind of money unless there's something major they're hiding from the public eye? Suspicious doesn't even begin to cover it. And if you think that's twisted, fans started pulling lyrics from Bey's track Anger. In it, she spits about doing anything, even wearing the skin and hair of her husband's deceased lover, as long as it kept him tied to her forever. That imagery alone had people saying the song was way too specific to just be art. But it doesn't stop there. In a since-deleted article, Hollywood Street King claimed they spoke with one of the actual officers who worked Cathy's case. And according to that officer, Cathy's death was not a natural brain aneurysm like the press reported. It was labeled a suspicious homicide. The article quoted, "Yesterday, I got the news that Cathy Michelle White had suddenly passed away. So I quickly began my investigation. And guess what? K.A. did not die from a brain aneurysm as reported widely around the internet. According to an NYPD detective, Cathy's cause of death is uncertain. Later today, we will have the autopsy and toxicology reports. Right now, the death is considered suspicious. The report gets even more disturbing. A 911 call came in from an apartment at 130 West 19th Street in Manhattan, claiming Cathy was suddenly ill. Paramedics rushed her to Beth Israel Hospital, and that's where she was pronounced dead. At the time, officials rushed to label it a brain aneurysm, but detectives on the scene stressed it was way too early to make that call. They confirmed an autopsy would be performed, plus a full toxicology screening, because the possibility that someone slipped Cathy something couldn't be ruled out. The results, they warned, would take 2 weeks to confirm. Now here's the twist. Just 2 weeks before her death, Cathy had been contacted by a major tabloid investigating her rumored affair with Jay-Z. Sources said she gave the reporter just enough to keep the story alive, but afterward she made a shocking phone call to Jay himself. During that call, Cathy allegedly told him straight up that she was planning to go public with everything, but only if he met her price. That alone paints a dangerous picture. Then, barely 48 hours after Beyoncé announced her pregnancy with Jay's baby at the MTV VMAs, Cathy suddenly turned up dead under highly suspicious circumstances. Fans who have studied the timeline swear the dots connect too perfectly to be a coincidence. And Jaguar Wright wasn't finished stirring the pot. In another interview, she doubled down, claiming Beyoncé not only faked her entire pregnancy, but also stole Cathy's unborn child before making sure she was silenced. Jaguar said point blank, "Blue Ivy is actually the baby Cathy was carrying before tragedy struck." Even respected journalist Liz Crokin weighed in, backing up these suspicions. She revealed that she was preparing to air an exclusive interview with Cathy about her affair with Jay. An interview that was scheduled to take place just days before Cathy mysteriously passed away. And then came Kanye's cryptic warning that still haunts the internet. He once rapped, "Jay-Z has murdered." And later, a deleted post appeared from a journalist who claimed, "I was the reporter who spoke to your alleged mistress right before she died. I know everything. I know what you did. Go F yourself. Your time is coming. Maybe you and Diddy can share a prison cell together. Justice is coming." That's what insiders are saying, adding it's only a matter of time before Jay-Z is fully exposed. Just like what's been happening with Diddy. They point to Kanye's warning that Jay's got blood and insist it wasn't just a lyric, it was a shot at his character. People close to the situation swear Jay is evil to the core and pray there will be real justice one day for Cathy White. The belief is simple. False idols always fall, and Jay and Bey's day of reckoning is coming. Now, when it comes to Katt Williams, the streets claim the only reason he hasn't come out and publicly blasted Jay and Bey with these same allegations is because he knows how dangerous they can be legally. Remember, Jaguar Wright said they already tried to threaten her with lawsuits after she spoke about them during her Piers Morgan appearance. Katt supposedly doesn't want that same smoke, but behind the scenes, he allegedly still believes Blue Ivy is not Beyoncé's biological child. And he's not alone in that belief. Plenty of fans back him up, convinced that Blue was really Cathy's baby all along. People online have receipts they keep throwing around. One fan argued, if Blue was born January 7th, then when Beyoncé announced her pregnancy, she would have only been about 4 months along. Her belly at the VMAs shouldn't have looked that big. Another person chimed in. I remember reading all about this back in 2017, especially the whole deflated baby bump video. I didn't want to believe it at first, but eventually I couldn't ignore it anymore. Had to erase it from my feed because it messed me up too much. The deeper you dig, the stranger it gets. People started pointing out how the timeline of Beyoncé's pregnancy was filled with bizarre contradictions that never sat right. There were claims that her baby bump seemed to change sizes overnight. One week it looked small, the next it looked way bigger, then suddenly back to flat again. Fans still circulate paparazzi shots comparing her bump from different days, and the inconsistencies keep fueling speculation that the whole thing was staged. Then there's the wild theory about the hospital lockdown the night Blue Ivy was supposedly born. Multiple witnesses claimed the entire maternity wing was sealed off, with regular patients and even new parents being turned away. Families complained publicly that they couldn't visit their loved ones because Beyoncé and Jay had allegedly paid millions to clear out the entire floor. That kind of move, people argue, only makes sense if there was something to hide, like switching a baby or covering up the true circumstances of the birth. And let's not forget the whispers about the fake belly itself. That infamous clip of Beyoncé sitting down in an interview and her bump seeming to collapse inward has been replayed millions of times. Skeptics say no real pregnancy belly could move like that. To them, it looked more like a prop than the body of a woman actually carrying a child. Adding more fuel, Jaguar Wright swore in interviews that industry insiders told her straight up Cathy White was pregnant with Jay-Z's baby, and Beyoncé allegedly made sure she never lived to expose it. The baby, those insiders claimed, became Blue Ivy. Even though it sounds like something straight out of a thriller, fans insist the puzzle pieces all fit. The suspicious death, the hospital lockdown, the changing bump, the lyrics in Beyoncé's songs. What really keeps this story alive is how the industry itself seems to tiptoe around it. Notice how nobody in Hollywood ever directly addresses the rumors. Not Jay, not Bey, not even their closest friends. Instead, the moment someone dares to mention Cathy White's name, things get eerily quiet. Some even claim that powerful media outlets have been pressured to bury any coverage of her death, wiping details from archives that could keep the conspiracy alive. Jaguar Wright doubled down on this during one of her fiery interviews, saying, "They tried to erase Cathy like she never existed, but I know the truth, and so do a lot of others in this game." Her words shook people, because it echoed what fans had been noticing for years: the lack of transparency, the disappearing articles, the way even big-name journalists suddenly backed out of investigating the story. And then came Kanye, throwing gasoline on the fire with his infamous outburst about the industry's darkest secrets. When he hinted that Jay-Z had blood on his hands, people immediately linked it back to Cathy's suspicious death. Kanye may have never named her directly, but to conspiracy theorists, the connection was obvious. Adding to the drama, there's that chilling poem-like verse from Beyoncé's own music where she talks about clinging to her man by any means necessary, even if it meant wearing the skin of another woman. For fans who already believed she had something to hide, that lyric wasn't art, it was a confession hidden in plain sight. Today, whenever Blue Ivy trends online, the comments aren't just about her performances or her fashion. They're filled with people demanding answers about her real origins and Cathy White's fate. It's as if Beyoncé's carefully crafted image as a flawless queen is forever haunted by whispers of a woman who never got the chance to tell her story. At this point, the theory has turned into something bigger than just gossip. It's practically a legend whispered across the internet. Every new clue, every resurfaced lyric, every old interview seems to add another layer of smoke to the fire. Fans argue that if Beyoncé really had nothing to hide, why are so many pieces of this story shrouded in secrecy? Why were articles deleted, hospital witnesses silenced, and Cathy White's name buried so quickly after her death? The timeline alone gives people chills. Cathy talks to the press, threatens to expose Jay, Beyoncé suddenly announces a pregnancy, and then, out of nowhere, Cathy is gone. Fast forward a few days, and Blue Ivy enters the world under a cloud of luxury hospital lockdowns and questionable optics. To conspiracy theorists, it's not just coincidence, it's a pattern too clean to ignore. Jaguar Wright, Katt Williams, Kanye West, Liz Crokin, all these names keep circling back directly or indirectly to the same disturbing narrative. They hint at industry cover-ups, power moves, and even coded messages inside the music itself. And when you look at it all stacked together, it feels less like rumor and more like a hidden story just waiting to be cracked wide open. Even fans who once defended Beyoncé have started questioning. They revisit that deflated baby bump clip. They replay the lyrics in Daughter in Anger, and they ask themselves whether those words were really metaphors or confessions. Suddenly, the image of a perfect power couple starts to look more like a carefully staged play, with one woman's death hanging over it like a ghost. Now here's where it gets chilling. If even half of these claims are true, then we're looking at one of the darkest cover-ups in music history. Think about it. A mistress who threatens to expose everything. A sudden mysterious death, lyrics that read like confessions, and a child whose origins are still debated more than a decade later. That's not just drama. That's a scandal that rewrites the entire story of hip-hop's most powerful couple, and yet silence continues to surround the case. No official autopsy report has ever been publicly confirmed. No follow-up investigation ever came to light. Every time the rumors resurface, powerful media outlets step in to shut it all down. It's like someone is determined to keep Cathy White's name locked away in the shadows. But the whispers don't stop. Fans are convinced Blue Ivy is the living proof of what really went down. They claim Beyoncé's empire is built on a secret that can never be admitted, because the fallout would be catastrophic. Imagine the backlash if the world believed that the golden couple's firstborn was tied to such a dark chapter. It would shake the industry to its core. Even now, Kanye's cryptic warnings, Jaguar Wright's relentless interviews, Katt Williams' subtle confirmations, and Liz Crokin's investigative leads all hang in the air like puzzle pieces pointing to the same truth. The story refuses to die no matter how much it's buried. And now, it all comes down to this: a story that refuses to stay buried. Cathy White's name still echoes through every corner of the internet, carried by whispers, screenshots, deleted articles, and cryptic lyrics that fans swear are confessions hiding in plain sight. No matter how hard the industry tries to silence it, the puzzle always resurfaces. And each time, more people start to question the truth behind Blue Ivy's birth and Cathy's untimely death. For Beyoncé and Jay-Z, this shadow will never fully disappear. They may stand as the ultimate power couple, but behind the glitz, there's a haunting story that won't go away. Every time Beyoncé steps on stage, every time Blue Ivy appears in the spotlight, the same uncomfortable question comes roaring back. Is this the perfect family image, or the cover-up of a tragedy that changed everything? And with figures like Jaguar Wright screaming the truth, Kanye dropping cryptic warnings, Katt Williams backing up the whispers, and journalists like Liz Crokin digging deeper, it feels like we're inching closer and closer to the day when the full story might finally break wide open. Until then, all we have are the clues, the contradictions, and the fans who refuse to let this mystery die. But what do you think? Was Cathy White silenced to protect Jay and Bey's empire? Is Blue Ivy really Beyoncé's biological child? Or is she the daughter of a woman who never got the chance to speak her truth? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I want to hear every angle of what you believe went down. And if you made it this far, sound off in the comments. Do you think the truth will ever come out? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this.